Let's start with where things stand right now on those issues tied to the CRTC. What kind of dialogue would you say you've been having with the regulator?
Well, first off, thank you for having me and having a chance to present Cogeco Inc. and Cogeco Communication. Communication and telecommunication group operating in Canada, but also in the United States, in 11 states along the eastern seaboard. So we support healthy competition. Actually, we love competition. But the recent decision from the CRTC is moving us in an unclear space. We would like clear rules, predictable rules, but also fair rules. We believe that it's a big endeavor to build networks in our very large countries. It takes millions and billions of dollars. So we believe anybody, any carrier who is building networks should be having access to other networks to lease some capacity, but it needs to be fair. And what the CRTC has ruled recently is actually having access for some players below our cost to our network. And we're not alone in this. Many other networks in Canada are experiencing the same. So we are challenging this recent decision from the CRTC well, in front of the federal court. So we filed a request for stay that we got as a collective, all the cable and broadband companies. We've also petitioned the governor and council to ask the CRTC to reconsider its decision to have prices below our cost. And also, we've asked the CRTC itself to review and vary its decision.
So a lot that you're doing right now, if the end result is not what you hope for, you talked about the investments that you have made in building out across the country. If things don't change, how would that affect your future capital spending?
Well, we'll see how things pan out. I just described the three different tracks and recourse the industry is taking. I'm personally very optimistic that a just and reasonable outcome will be found in this, and the regulatory framework will be adjusted. Wireline and wireless things and rules needs to be clear, predictable, but most of all, very fair for players. So we will continue to invest as an industry, but we need to recoup our cost, obviously, make some profit to grow our network and continue our network expansion in unserved and underserved areas. That's really important for the government. It's really important for us as citizens to expand the digital networks, the reach of the internet, of video services, telephony services, wireless services. But we need, as an industry, a fair deal here.
Now, you mentioned you operate on both sides of the border. When it comes to the growth opportunity, do you see a bigger opportunity in one country over the other, Canada versus the United States?
Well, we're on a very good track to deliver on our growth strategy. You see, we have a very extensive network in 11 states in the United States and the province of Ontario and Quebec. Altogether, we reach more than 2.7 million households, and 50% of them subscribe to our internet services, 30% of them subscribe to our video services, and 20% subscribe to our telephony services. So you see there's still a lot of place for growth within our footprint, within our reach. We are serving, for the most part, consumer markets. Business markets are also something very interesting that we are ramping our focus. So they're now 10% of our revenues, and we will continue to grow on the business service side of serving customers, and there are two other vectors of growth as well. So acquisition in the States, like you've mentioned, there are a number of companies, and if you notice, just before Christmas, we've announced the acquisition of Thames Valley and the southeastern Connecticut market. So there are many more acquisitions like this one that we could perform. The U.S. market is not as consolidated like Canada is, and there's a growth vector there. And also, we will add other products to our portfolio, like wireless, mobile services. That's something we're looking at right now.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Before we go, I wanted to get a little more color on the wireless strategy. And you talked on your conference call about how wireline and wireless, I mean, you've got a converging world out there. Can you just give us more color on how big your plans are for wireless and what we should be watching for in the year ahead?
Well, I think the main thing to watch for is actually the CRTC public audience that are starting mid-February in Canada. So we will be there, of course, to describe a model that we think is goes beyond the current one. The current one is work well to serve dense urban cities and centers. We are proposing a model that will actually cover regional areas as well, underserved areas, and creating a better wireline and a wireless integration for the benefit of all Canadians.
All right, Philippe, thanks very much for the context. Appreciate it.